The first thing Daniel noticed about her was the way she carried silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, not the silence of someone with nothing to say, but the warm, full kind. The kind that felt like a room you never wanted to leave. He had noticed it 3 years ago, and he noticed it again now, standing just inside the entrance of the same small café on Linden Street, watching her sit alone at the corner table by the window, her fingers curled around a ceramic mug, her eyes somewhere far beyond the glass. Her name was Amara. He exhaled slowly, quietly, the way a man breathes when he is trying very hard not to fall apart in public. It was the 14th of October. It was always the 14th of October. He had met her the first time 3 years ago on this exact date in this exact cafe. She had spilled her tea on his jacket and apologized 4 times, her voice soft and genuinely mortified, her eyes deep brown, almost amber in the light, watching him with that particular expression people get when they are afraid a stranger is about to be unkind to them. He had laughed instead, told her it was an old jacket, ordered her another tea. They had talked for 4 hours that afternoon. 4 hours that felt like 20 minutes. She told him about growing up by the coast, about the smell of salt air and her mother's kitchen. He told her things he had never said to anyone, about his father, about the years he spent running from a version of himself he didn't like. She had listened like every word was important, like he was important. And by the time the cafe dimmed its lights and a young waiter politely informed them they were the last ones inside, something had shifted between them, something quiet and irreversible. He walked her to her door that evening. She smiled at him from her doorstep, that particular smile, the one that reached her eyes and stayed there a moment too long, and said, "I hope I see you again, Daniel." He did not sleep that night. He came back the next morning with her favorite tea. He had remembered. Of course he had remembered. And knocked on her door with the careful hope of a man who does not yet know how badly things are about to break him. The woman who opened the door looked at him with polite, unbothered eyes. "Can I help you?" It was Amara. Same face, same voice, same amber eyes. But she did not know him, not even slightly, not even the ghost of recognition. He had told himself it was a misunderstanding the first time. People had bad days. Memory did strange things under stress. He had returned a week later, then a month later, then on random evenings when the ache became too loud to ignore. Every single time, Amara looked at him like he was a kind stranger she had never encountered before. Warm, polite, slightly curious. Never his. The second year, on the 14th of October, he had gone back to the cafe. Not with hope exactly. Hope had bruised him too many times by then. But with something quieter, something closer to devotion. And there she was again. Same corner table, same ceramic mug, same silence that felt like a room. They had talked again, for hours again. She had told him about the coast and her mother's kitchen again, slightly different details this time, the story carrying the shape of something lived rather than rehearsed. And he had sat across from her and listened and ached and loved her and said nothing about any of it. Because what would he say? "We have done this before? You loved me once, in the space of a single afternoon, and then you forgot I existed?" He was afraid she would think he was unwell. He was afraid she would leave. He was more afraid of her leaving than of anything else in the world. Now it was year 3, the 14th of October. And Daniel stood at the entrance of Linden Street Cafe with his heart beating in that slow, resigned way it had learned, because some part of him had accepted this, even if he could not explain it. And he watched Amara wrap her fingers around her mug and stare out at the street. He straightened his collar. walked in. She looked up when the bell above the door chimed. Their eyes met across the small, warm space of the cafe, and something moved across her face. Not recognition exactly, but something adjacent to it. Something that flickered and then settled. She gave him a small, curious smile. He smiled back, sat down at the small table beside hers, ordered a coffee he did not need. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. The cafe filled the silence with the soft percussion of other people's conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, the quiet jazz that always played here on autumn afternoons. Daniel watched the steam rising from his cup and reminded himself to breathe. Then she said, "You look like someone carrying something heavy." He turned to look at her. She was watching him with those amber eyes, soft and direct at once, and there was something in them, a kind of gentle, honest attention that made his chest tighten. "Just tired," he said. "Long week." She nodded slowly. "I always come here when the week gets too loud," she said. "Something about this cafe specifically. I have no idea why." She paused, tilted her head. "I feel like I have always come here." He said nothing, just nodded. She extended her hand. "I am Amara." He took it. Her hand was warm, the way it always was. "Daniel," he said. And just like the first time, and the second time, and every time in between, something shifted in the air between them, something that had no reasonable explanation, something that felt, to anyone who might have been watching, like a beginning. They talked until the afternoon turned amber and long. She was easy to talk to in that rare way that makes you forget how much time has passed, how much of yourself you have given away without meaning to. She laughed at the right moments and went quiet at the right moments, and somewhere around the second hour, Daniel caught himself thinking, as he always did, as he could not help doing, that this was the most natural thing in the world. Her voice, her laugh, the way she tilted her mug slightly when she was thinking. He knew all of it. He knew her. She did not know him at all. But then, and this was new, this had not happened before, she paused mid-sentence and looked at him with a strange expression. Not confusion exactly, something more unsettled than that. "This is going to sound strange," she said slowly. "Say it anyway," he said. His voice was steady. He had learned over 3 years how to be steady around her. She looked down at her mug. "I feel like I have talked to you before. Not like I know you from somewhere. More like..." She shook her head, frustrated at herself. "Like my heart knows the shape of this conversation. Does that make sense? Is that insane?" Daniel felt something move through him, a tremor, something between grief and hope, those two things that had always lived very close together inside him where Amara was concerned. "It is not insane," he said quietly. She looked up at him. "Have we met before?" she asked. And the way she asked it, not casual, not polite small talk, but careful, searching, like the answer actually mattered to her. Daniel held her gaze. His hands were still around his coffee cup. The cafe murmured softly around them. Outside, the last of the afternoon light was pulling itself slowly off the street. He had a choice. He had always had this choice.
Tell her, or protect her from something neither of them yet understood. "No," he said. "We have never met." She nodded, looked back down at her mug. But something in her expression said she did not entirely believe him. Something in her expression said her heart was refusing to accept the answer her ears had just received. They stayed until the cafe closed. He walked her to her door again. The same street, the same lamplight, the same autumn air that smelled faintly of rain and something bittersweet he had never been able to name. At her doorstep, she turned to face him. and for a long moment she just looked at him. Really looked with that searching quality that was new this year, that had not been there before, and something in his chest cracked open quietly. "I am glad I met you today, Daniel," she said softly. "Me too," he said, and meant it so completely that the words barely felt like enough. She smiled, reached out, and without quite seeming to know why, briefly touched his hand. Just a moment, just the ghost of contact. Then she went inside. Daniel stood on the pavement for a long time after the door closed. The street was quiet. Somewhere down the road, a car passed slowly, its headlights sweeping across the wet asphalt. He looked up at the dark sky and breathed in the autumn air and thought about the look on her face when she asked if they had met before. Something was different this year. He did not know yet if that was a gift or the beginning of something he was not prepared for. "Excuse me, have we met before?"